Today we are cycle breaking, changing the narrative of disempowering scripts. My name is Amy Ballantyne. Welcome to Power to the People Pleasers. Please help me welcome my guest, Michaela Gaffen Stone.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm
You
excited.
know, I'm excited for our conversation as well. You have this beautiful wealth of knowledge available for this conversation. But before we jump into this discussion on breaking that script, have you ever been a people pleaser? And if so, how did that show up in your life?
Oh, I was literally born into people pleasing. Um, so my childhood was not a safe one. And I needed to read the adults around me to see, am I safe? Is this okay? Do I need to run? And is that person happy with me? Is that person happy with me? And I learned, pretty much before I could talk, that certain behaviors were more welcome than others, and so people pleasing was a survival strategy. Yeah, absolutely, people pleaser.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I I always ask this question so that the listeners can see that they're not alone. And there's so many of us in the world who can identify with this behavior. So I appreciate you sharing that. I wanted to give the listeners a little bit about you so that they're excited as much as I am to listen to this episode. Michaela is a cycle breaker, recovered people pleaser, and author of Aligned and Unapologetic: The Human Design Guide. A board-certified behavior analyst and multi-certified coach, she blends science, human design, and bold truth-telling. I love that, to help mostly women stop living for others and start creating unapologetically aligned lives. So let's dig into this. Let's dig in. You describe yourself as a cycle breaker. So I'm curious, what does that mean in the context of people pleasing, and how can someone begin to rewrite those disempowering scripts they've been carrying since childhood?
Well, what it means, how it shows up and how you recognize it, is there's a pattern you're in, and this person will say or do something that triggers a response in you, and it's so automatic you probably don't even realize you're doing it. But one of the most obvious would be, hey, can you volunteer to do this thing? It'll only take 3 hours a week, and you know it's going to take 15, but you say yes anyway. And one of the things that underpins that is feeling, oh, wow, they wanted me, they asked me. And so people pleasing also comes with a ding in your self worth, if you will, a sort of an impression that just because somebody gives you attention, that's a good thing. And so you want to please them. And it's a very disempowered state to come from. And there's a script
Mm.
there that as soon as it's triggered, you'll go straight into that script without even realizing it. That's your cycle.
Yes. Okay. So my follow-up question to that then is, are you saying script as in script of the story, the words, or you say, describe to me what script means to you in this context?
Actually, it's a couple of things. It can be literally the things you say, and how you recognize that is if you can have a conversation with the other person in your head. I'm going to say this, they're going to say that, then this is going to happen. And we do this all the time, right?
Hmm.
That's a script that, if you want to break that script, it's simple. I don't say easy. Easy takes practice. But simple means it's really not complicated. You simply don't do your part. Where this exchange relies on you saying or doing this so that they can do that, da 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 da.
Hmm.
You pull out of that and do something different. The other person cannot continue the script. And it's fascinating to watch as a behavior analyst. It's like, that is curious to see. Then
So
when it comes to behavior, that is also a communication, and you can have a script with your behavior.
tell me more about that.
So it's things that you'll do as a pleasing mechanism. So somehow to make yourself smaller or less, maybe you try and appear less intelligent than you are, or let me not be pushy. There's ways that we label ourselves, particularly women, where, oh, I'm too much, I need to be quieter, maybe I won't answer all the questions even though I know them. And the behavior is you just kind of go quiet, and maybe you even do something that makes you look less intelligent, and it kind of wards people off, right? I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. That's all part of the people pleasing cycle.
Mm. I'm having my own epiphanies as you're talking there. Ah!
We all have them. We all have them. The question is, when do you recognize that you have them, and when
Yes.
do you want to step out of that?
Wow. Okay. So I'm gonna I'm gonna play with that in my own mind for some time and then have a conversation with you later. But you've lived in 8 countries and observed human behavior across cultures. What have you noticed about people pleasing as a global pattern versus how it shows up uniquely in different environments?
The expectations have a lot to do with it. We have expected roles. When you're born into this world, there is a set of expectations that you are going to behave this way, do these things, and people pleasing will show up according to that. Culturally, it can be very different. For some people, having a work ethic where you work 16 hours a day is, that's the people pleasing thing. For someone else, they may be speaking, particularly for women, you got this high pitched voice that somehow sounds like a little girl, and therefore, I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. If you want an example of that, look at Japan. Women speak in a much higher tone than the men, noticeably different compared to the West. And it's this little girl high pitched tone that is automatically subservient, if you will. That's pretty controversial what I just said, but have a look at it and you'll see what I mean.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. Now, you have many, many certifications. And one of the things that I know you're very passionate about talking about is human design being central to your work. So, for someone brand new to that concept, how can understanding their design help them break free from the people pleasing and step into the alignment that you're talking about?
One of my favorite questions. So, human design, first of all, let me put a disclaimer out there, because I do get people saying to me, well, you have a science background. How can you be doing human design, right? Isn't that very woo? And I would argue, no, it isn't, because I'm going to give you information based on your birth criteria, and you're going to be the scientist. You're going to go test that. I never ask somebody to believe me. There's no point.
Yeah.
Like, what would that do? I'm just somebody telling you a thing. But if you recognize it, and if you can see, yes, I actually have this ability that I've been keeping small. That is actually your energy in flow. So what does that mean? With human design, you have things that come effortlessly for you. It's so easy that you probably discount it. It's just, anybody can do that. No biggie. It's not a big deal at all. But it's not true, actually. That is your gift, and I can find it for you in human design, because often as kids, we get squashed. It's not a malicious thing necessarily. For some of us, it is, but it's not always malicious. It's just people don't understand what your gift is. And so for kids, you kind of need to keep them boxed in to keep them safe. And so we don't want them running off to the left and doing something that we don't understand. But that could be the child's gift showing through, and we tell them it's wrong.
Yeah.
You're a daydreamer, you talk too much, you don't focus, you do this, and we take these stories in, and it's part of the people pleasing. Oh, I better not do that. Let me not do that, even though it's natural for you. So with human design, we find those places, and I open them up for you and say, hey, look, here's your gifts. Human design shows you what's right about you. You're not designed to be wrong.
Yeah, I love that. You're not designed to be wrong. Wow.
There's no bad design.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious, as you think about understanding human design, like the introduction to it, what does an individual need to know to get started in human design?
Well, it depends on how you want to do it, because know this, if you go into human design to learn it for yourself, there's a lot. It's a rabbit hole that goes very, very deep, and you never quite reach the bottom. So If you want somebody else to do the reading, there are lots of people that do that. And, caveat emptor, it depends on the luck of the draw, or, does somebody
Mhm.
refer you? We're all different. I have
Yeah,
my own approach that's not the same as anybody else's,
for sure.
but I developed that over time. At the beginning, everybody pretty much does it the same way. So you can get your chart done for free. My website is one place where you can do that,
Yeah.
and it will give you the basic information. Now, you can either start reading books, and I have a book for that too,
Mhm.
or you can have a reading and have it explained to you, so that you get an idea and you can ask questions from there. Well, what does this mean?
Mm.
How does that look? What do I do with this?
Yeah.
And that's the work in progress. That's the fun part.
I'm so curious how human design found you.
Well, that's a good one.
Mhm.
Actually, I was working with someone, I'm not very tech inclined, and I was working with someone to build a website some websites ago. And we were just, there was something a little off in the timing with our work together. And she was getting more and more frustrated, poor thing. I could see her point. And one day she said to me, are you aware of human design? And I'm kind of looking at her very skeptically. I do science, right? Like a little cocky maybe, but seriously. And I said, isn't that a black hole you put money into? And she
Mm.
said, no, 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 seriously, I need you to go and get your chart and give it to me. And she piqued my curiosity, and I
Mm.
trusted her, very intelligent woman. And I'm like, okay, she's very tech. Why does she want this thing? So the behavior analyst kicked in. I got my chart, sent it to her, and then I sat there like this, looking at her
Mm.
behavior. What's she going to do with this information? And I watched all these emotions across her face. And then she went, got it. Okay. And she changed just a few things that we did together, and everything went smoothly. Now,
Mm.
now they had me hooked, and I was just, okay, I need to know what this is. How does this work? Where is it? Let me get into it. And I've been diving ever since.
Wow, that's an excellent story. What did she change? I'm like, I'm digging into your rabbit hole here.
She changed. She changed, first of all, her expectations for how quickly I would do things.
Ah,
And she changed how she told me things.
wow.
So, format is very important. For example, if you want to ask me a question and get an answer, your best bet, this is like open for everybody, your
Yeah.
best bet is to give me options, and then I can respond
Like,
to that. But if you ask me an open ended question, you're going to be a while. I'm
right.
not. I'm not going to give you a quick answer to that. I don't like open-ended questions um, that require a sort of response that can be judged. An example would
Mm.
be, I had a coach ask me, "Would you look at these three packages and tell me what you think I can charge for them?" And I said,
Mm.
"Sure." People please. "Oh, sure, I'll do that." So she sent me what she was working on, and then said, "What do you think?" And I said, no, 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 no,
Mm.
no, no. You have to give me some options
Mm.
of your idea for what this is worth, and then I can tell you based on that. But I'm not picking it out of the air. Mm-mm.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
that as that would be how I would reply too. That's so interesting. So you've shared that your first conscious no felt uncomfortable when you and I were having our first time chatting together. What advice would you give to someone who wants to say no, but feels like their body betrays them when with that automatic, like it just spits out. It comes out of them, the yes.
I would say practice with small things first. Just pick a thing that normally you would say yes to, and it's not a big deal. And then just practice the no. Practice in the mirror. And that won't give you everything you need quite when you have a different person opposite you.
Mhm.
That really sort of challenges. Um, but do it anyway, and then hold it. That's the key, is don't back out and say,
Mm.
oh, well, I've changed my mind. Sure, I can do it. Just sit
Yeah.
on it. Don't say anything. And have a little sentence that you can repeat that you're comfortable with. For example, thank you for thinking of me, though.
Mhm. Yeah.
And don't say anything
And
else.
don't
Just
say anything else. Yeah,
uh-huh.
that can be the hard. the hard stepping stone, but it's so valuable to work on this because then you can be more focused on where you're truly aligned. So you have this book, Aligned and Unapologetic, the Human Design Guide that invites individuals to embrace their gifts rather than hide them. So why do you think so many of us silence this magic that we have inside of us, and what's the first step to reclaiming it?
Well, basically, we all have stories of from childhood, and we basically make things mean something. You'll see something, experience something, hear something, and your young self with this much life experience makes it mean something. And we take that on board. Then we build ourselves on that foundation. So by the time you get to adulthood, you're big you, but you're built on little you. So finding those stories and exposing them for the nonsense they are is a big part of changing the narrative, rewriting those stories too, because as kids, we tend to think it's our fault. That happened to me. That was because of me. I did that thing. And no, it isn't. You just happen to be there. But how do we get you to the place where you see that that's the case? That is a big shift. And when you can do that, you don't ever have to revisit that again in the same way. At the beginning of this episode, I talked about my childhood and said it was unsafe, and it was a really rough childhood. But I say it without an emotional attachment because I've done the work, and I know that I just happened to be there. It wasn't about me, I was just there.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. And when you think about your book, is there anything else as a nugget that you want to pull out and share with us today in this context of changing the narrative?
Yeah, definitely. It's a guidebook, and there's 400 and something pages. I don't even remember how many now, 38 or something. It's a guidebook, so you have your chart, and then you find the information about you in there. My recommendation, if you're looking at my book, is have some sticky notes of one color and put that in the book. And then if you have a partner or you've got kids or both, you can do their charts as well and have a different color sticky note for each person. And you can see where, this is a lot of deep diving, but you can see where things connect and where they clash and why. And it can be a pretty easy move to sort of change those things. Sometimes it's a very small change.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually
Like,
saved a marriage once with that.
oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. There was a couple who they had a young child, about 3, and they were fighting and they were mentioning the D word, and they were so frustrated with each other. And she had heard about human design, and so she asked me, "Can you work with me and my husband and help us out?" And I discovered that their designs, first of all, he's a manifester, which is a very strong sort of go get 'em type design, and she's a projector, which is a more I'm going to say gentle, sort of, you oversee systems and see the big picture, very different energy. But they both had the gate of control. And this was a big feature for them because what that meant was they were fighting for supremacy on certain areas and they didn't need to. She needed to have her area of control and he needed his, and neither of them second guessed the other. We worked on that a little bit and they're doing great now. And that's 2 years ago.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. I'm curious, you have many certifications. I probably could pull up the number. What other system in all of your learning have you utilized to the same level as human design to support individuals?
Neuroscience and behavior analysis. Those 2 things, because neuroscience tells me how it's stuck in the brain and what methods you can use to rewire. And then behavior analysis it's so much fun. Everybody has behavior. If you're alive, you have behavior. Whether you're a cat, a dog, a person, we all have behavior. Behavior is communication. So when you see what someone's doing, the question becomes, What are they looking for with that behavior? Where did it come from? And when you figure those things out, you can change that behavior for something that's more functional, that suits their purpose better and will get them there in a less difficult way. So, for example, if you have a child that tantrums a lot, they want attention, straight up, they want attention, and they will get your attention. Now, if that child is not taught a different way of getting attention, they grow up to be an adult who lives in drama.
Mm-hmm.
We all know those people who, oh, my life is terrible. This happened. Now that bad thing happened. Now it's this. And they have disaster after disaster in their lives
Yeah.
because they never learned a different way of getting attention. There are much better ways of getting attention than having a hissy fit. But if you don't learn it, you go with what works.
Mm-hmm. And what you know, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we come to the conclusion of this dialogue here, is there a final message that you want to leave the audience with relating to changing the narrative of this disempowering script?
Yeah. There is a frame of mind that I would like you to consider, which is the dual sides of the coin, blame, shame. Don't do it. If you're blaming someone, you are giving them your personal responsibility. You're giving it away. There's no point to blame another person. You can't take action from there. If you accept blame, then you're in a place of shame. You also can't take action from there. Neither of these things are helpful, and it'll get in the way of progress. You can't step out of a pattern if you're blaming the other person for what they did, or you're feeling, oh, it's all my fault. You can't do anything from there. So when you catch yourself doing that, stop it.
Yeah.
Just let it go. Don't do it.
Stop it. Yes.
It's not helpful.
I love that. Stop it. Yes, I appreciate that message very much, and this has been a really wonderful conversation. Certainly, you've got my wheels and my brain turning, and I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely and it's gone so fast.
Yes. And for all the listeners, you can get your human design chart created at Michaela's website, and I will drop all the links below in the show notes so that you can connect with her lovely spirit, and all of the incredible wisdom that she has to offer. So, again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And to all of our listeners, truly grateful for you tuning in to another episode of Power to the People Pleasers. Please stay tuned for the next episode coming soon. Have an awesome day.